Bird brains and Catttitude. You heard me right. Psalm 19 in episode 2 of Cultivate. All right, welcome back. Episode 2 in this series of Cultivate, this series we're calling Spirit and Truth. We're learning how to worship actually from the one we worship. And we're doing that by moving through God's Word and looking at the instruction we find there on worship. In this video series in particular, we're looking through the Psalms to see what kind of insights we find there. Last week, maybe you remember, we learned that it's good for us to declare the goodness and glory of God. It's good for us to declare His goodness, not because He's forgotten it, not because He needs a reminder, but because sometimes we forget it. Sometimes because we need the reminder. It's good for us, in other words, to be truthful about reality. And the way we do that is to declare His glory. This week, we'll move on into Psalm 19. I'll go ahead and read it here. The first 6 verses or so, Psalm 19. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky proclaims the work of His hands. Day after day they pour out speech, night after night they communicate knowledge. There is no speech, there are no words, their voice is not heard. Yet their message has gone out to all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens, He has pitched a tent for the sun. It's like a groom coming from the bridal chamber. It rejoices like an athlete running a course. It rises from one end of the heavens and circles to the other end. Nothing is hidden from its heat. That's Psalm 19, verses 1 through 6. Now, you could read this. We could read this today and think how foolish, right? From a 2023 perspective, David thought there was a tent pitched for the sun. He thought that the sun moved around the earth. You know, from our perspective, we could read this and say this guy had no idea how the solar system even works, right? How foolish, how naive. And we could read it that way. But that would be missing the whole point of the psalm, really the whole point of the Bible. The wisdom of David is so evident here, and it's a take-home for us about worship. Maybe he didn't know astronomy as well as we do today, but David did know that creation testifies to a creator. He knew that the truth of God's glory is written in the world all around us. He knew that when we need inspiration for worship, we don't have to look that far, right? My dogs will often wait at our house, looking out a certain window while we're gone. While no one's home, I know what they're doing. They're waiting at a certain window, looking out of it, hopefully, probably waiting for us to come home, right? I know they're doing it because there are nose prints against that glass. You come home and you see, like on this window, there's no dog there, but you see there this outline of a dog nose, and I know exactly where they have been, right? And just like that, there are places in life that show evidence of God's presence. David saw those as catalysts for worship around us. And his wisdom is that we orient our lives not to ignore those, not to obsess over them, but to rejoice and worship through them. I want to present this in 2 images for us this week. And the first image is this simple one here, an ostrich. This is the classic kind of cartoon picture of an ostrich hiding its head in the sand. I think the reality here is that ostriches actually are looking at their eggs or something like that. But the cartoon is that they're hiding their head in the sand, afraid of the world around them, trying to hide from life around them and get somewhere safe where they can't see what's scaring them, where they can't see what's challenging them or what's coming up against them. And all too often, Christians look like this. not interested in discovering more, not interested in hearing things that might challenge or question or expand us, right? All too often, Christians look like this. But David's message to us here is we don't have to be afraid or close-minded to the outside world. Rather, understand the world, creation, is simply a testimony to God's glory and to his creative power. We do not worship a weak God whose weakness will be revealed the more we understand about creation. As Dallas Willard said, he said, I don't have to defend the Christian faith. The Christian faith defends me. It's the most true thing out there. I don't have to defend it. It defends me. God is not afraid of our examination. He's not afraid of our research. We're not going to find things that overwhelm his authority. John Piper kind of said it this way. He said, if you wake up feeling fragile, remember God is not fragile. If you wake up feeling fragile, remember God is not. We don't have to be ostriches. We don't have to hide from curiosity or from research or from understanding. We don't have to hide from those things. But we're also not meant to just be curious. Curiosity killed the cat, they say, which I kind of believe. If you've ever had a cat, you know they're curious to a fault, just kind of for its own sake. They're just curious just because. We went camping recently as a family, and our cat, actually our house cat, almost came with us because he was very curious about our camper. And we had to open, we were packing things in, and he was curious. He wanted to go explore. He went in there and he hid, and he almost came with us. He almost got packed up with everything else, right? We're meant to be curious. We're meant to be interested, but not like cats. Because curiosity for its own sake, or without worship, that simply leads to dead understanding. It simply leads to answers without meaning. We are meant to be curious, fascinated, intrigued, explorers of the world, but our curiosity must always be filled with worship and with a search for our Creator. That kind of curiosity, that kind of interest leads to an understanding not just of our surroundings, but of the God who knit them together. As Paul said, since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power, his divine nature, they have been clearly seen. They can be understood, Paul says, from God's workmanship, from creation. The invisible qualities, attributes of God can be seen when you look at his workmanship. We're not meant to be an ostrich, nor are you meant to be a cat. You don't have to be afraid of examining the world around you, nor are you meant to simply be curious about your surroundings. We are meant to be fascinated children of God who rejoice in the creativity and the wonder and the majesty of our Creator. So let's go out this week with David's worship ringing in our ears. Let's go out this week looking for ways that the creation is pointing us towards worship of our Creator. We'll see you next week.